The fact that you're still working probably isn't because you need more money. It's probably more to do for some hidden reasons, like around your self-identity, or perhaps long overdue acknowledgement around your value at work, or maybe some unspoken fears about running out of money in retirement. In this video, I'm going to help you identify what may be holding you back. I'm also going to share some examples of how I've helped clients overcome those obstacles so they can finally enjoy retirement. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about labels, and labels specifically that you're using for yourself. So they may be around your career. You might say, I'm an engineer, or I'm the go-to around work. There might be labels around your financial life, like I'm a saver, or I'm frugal. Or they may be more broad than that, like I'm always busy, or I'm the family provider. Now, all of these labels are great. All these self-identities are great. We're not going to try to abandon them. It would be impossible anyway. But some of these labels may be what's holding you back from retirement. So I want to encourage you to take a second, maybe pause this video and think about, what labels am I using for myself, whether it be personally or professionally, that may have an influence on retirement. So think about that right now. What I'm going to offer is that while it's impossible to abandon those identities or those labels altogether, it is possible to reframe them in a way that allows you to get over the hurdle and finally turn in your notice at work and then start enjoying retirement. So I'm going to give you some real examples about how we do that reframing. So I work with a client named Jim. Jim had learned early in life to be a saver, and he was very successful at it. He had saved over $2.5 million towards his retirement, but he had also delayed retirement specifically because he was caught in the saver mentality, and jumping into retirement felt like abandoning his identity. We actually did two things, but here's the first thing. The first thing is we created this refrigerator magnet to put up in something that he could see every single day. Now, this magnet is just about, first of all, acknowledging how much time and effort has been put into getting into this position where I can finally retire. It's also about reframing from going from serving the portfolio to letting the portfolio serve you, and just giving yourself permission to spend the money you've made. So that was the first thing that helped not eliminate the frugality, but just ease the intensity of it. The second thing is just leaning into another form of identity he had, and that is around being a family provider. So Jim and I were never able to eliminate the frugality, but what we acknowledged is that his wife had a long list of vacations that she wanted to go on in retirement. So we reframed the family provider narrative from I'm earning more income through work to I'm going to provide for my wife in retirement by going with her on all these vacations and experiences and enjoying ourselves that way. That is finally what did the trick for him. And it's funny, so he's been retired now for over a year. As I talk to him on the phone, he'll still say, Jonathan, I think about that golf membership all the time, but I just can't pull the trigger. So again, you can't abandon the identity, but he is happily retired. He is going on the vacation. So that's a giant success. I'll give you another example, an engineer that I worked with. And this is applicable not just for engineers, it's really for any profession, but I worked with a client who really identified as an engineer. It's just the way his brain works. And it felt like for him that moving into retirement was just an abandonment of that identity. And that felt super scary. What we did is we reframed it from I'm an engineer to I'll be retired and then I can do engineering consulting work as much as I want. That is what did the trick for him. So he is retired. Next week, he's going to Italy. Glenn, I hope you're watching this. Shout out to you. Now he's actually enjoying retirement. He is still an engineer, but it's not preventing him from being retired. So the point of all this is that it's possible to just reframe things and enjoy this new chapter of your life. And I can't resist the temptation here from sharing a little bit about my own experience with my saver mentality. I learned it from Warren Buffett. I was a penny pincher between probably 2011 and 2019. And it came to the point where I had a date over to my house. And when she walked into the living room, she said, "Oh, are you moving in or are you moving out right now?" And I thought, oh my God, I've spent so little on the decorations, decor on my house, and it looks like I'm moving. This is a serious problem. And I realized that if I was actually going to find a suitable spouse, I needed to change my frugality identity in a way that would actually let me find and meet my dream woman. So I did, and I just considered the additional spending to be an investment in my future happiness. And here I am now, happily married. I actually do have decorations on the wall now. And I just think about, hey, if I were to die with $1 million, that's $1 million worth of experiences I didn't have. So that's been super valuable for me. So just reflect for yourself. What kind of narrative am I telling myself around my personal, professional life that's preventing me from retiring? It's just not serving me. And then how can I reframe that so I can get over that hurdle? Now, the next hurdle that I see come up for near retirees is just, what happens if work starts offering me more money and starts acknowledging my value? And just before we get into that, if you're watching this video, you're going to love looking at my newsletter where I send videos and blogs each week. So click on the link in the description and check out my newsletter. Okay, so you may have given your boss the heads up that you're going to be retiring soon. And then like magic, your boss and the higher ups acknowledge, hey, you're actually worth more than we've been paying you since you let us know that. This is a real conundrum for people. And I've worked with several clients who face this situation, but here's what I want to share. It is unusual for an increase in pay to actually make delaying retirement worth it. I'm going to give you a real example of some clients I've worked with. They had saved around $1.5 million towards retirement. Once they handed in their notice, the company offered additional stock compensation worth 25 grand a year. And it felt like, hey, finally, your value at work is finally acknowledged. And maybe it's in the form of higher compensation. Maybe it's in the form of a promotion, but it's often long overdue. And it can be so impactful and meaningful that it feels like, hey, maybe this is worth sticking around for. What I want to offer is that it's seldom the case that additional compensation at work is going to materially impact how much you can spend in retirement. By the time you're getting into your early 60s, compound interest has already done its work, and additional yearly compensation, it just doesn't make a huge conversion. So let me give you a real example. I had a client who they had saved over $1.5 million towards retirement. And once he turned in his notice, his boss said, well, actually, we can give you additional company stock worth 25 grand a year to stick around for 3 more years. Client said, well, maybe that is worth it. Like maybe I'm finally getting my worth at work. So what we did is we input that additional compensation into his financial plan and just asked the question, how does this translate into more retirement income? Bottom line is they only were able to spend an additional $100 a month if they delay retirement. And the client looked at that and just said, not worth it. Like it's not worth more years of work. Like that was a great outcome. And that's kind of what gets me excited about my job is just I get the opportunity to inform my clients about what's possible and what's available, what's so, and then empower them to make the decision. And we had a great outcome here. So just be aware of you'll often get higher compensation or more value once you express your willingness and eagerness to retire. Just take the extra step of quantifying, well, what is that additional delay worth to me? And what you'll find is often it's not. Now, the last topic I want to get into is this often unspoken fear about what happens if I run out of money in retirement. This is a super valid and super common fear. And I'm here to share that whether you have $1 million or $5 million, it's still common. It doesn't go away with more net worth. I actually have one client who, even after hitting his target number of $3 million before retiring, once he hit that number, he was, Jonathan, I'm still just as nervous as I was before. And that's just the reality. You're not alone if you're feeling that way. So here's the remedy, is actually just building a retirement plan that helps quantify in your mind how much you need and letting you know, here's how much I can safely spend regardless of what happens in the stock market next week, next month, next year, and make sure that I'm not going to run out of money. If you don't quantify how much you need, you end up like a couple that I was working with. When I first met them, the husband and wife were disagreeing about how much they needed for retirement. And the husband thought that they needed to be super aggressive with the portfolio, save as much as they can, and keep working until age of 70. The wife, on the other hand, thought, well, we should only keep saving and working for as long as we need to spend what we want. And this was the back and forth that they had until they started working with us. Once we created that retirement plan through our software that I was just mentioning, we're able to see that, hey, the wife was actually correct. We don't need to keep working. We already have enough to retire. Problem solved. The other thing that I was able to offer for these clients, since they had such an aggressive portfolio, is what we call the speed limit analogy when it comes to retirement savings. There's often this temptation, if you don't know how much you need to spend exactly, to be more aggressive in your portfolio to try to earn as much as you can. In theory, that's going to make up for the uncertainty around how much you need. The reality is it's just not the case. But here's the speed limit analogy. If you think about your car being the vehicle to get you to retirement, you can go faster and faster and you can go past the speed limit, say 95 miles an hour. But if you go 95, you're just much more likely to get caught by the police and pulled over versus going slower, like going the speed limit 65, not getting a ticket. Now, how does that analogy actually manifest in a portfolio? If you crank it up to like a 95 miles an hour, that means let's call it a 95% stock portfolio. And it does have a potential expectation of earning more, but we know that stocks aren't super reliable in the short term for their pricing. So you may have a 20, 30, 40% drop in any given year. That's the analogy of being pulled over by the cops is this big market drop. The remedy for that is having a buffer of cash and some short-term bonds that can fund you even if there is a storm in the stock market or a recession, whatever the case may be. So having that cash and bonds, that's what's making the car go slower, what's keeping you inside the speed limit. So once we were able to build that portfolio that had 5 years worth of cash and bonds available, and then their stocks on the sideline, that allowed them to spend over $100,000 a year, which is what they wanted. And they were ready to actually make their retirement transition. And they told me, hey, finally, we feel like we're both on the same page. That was a super positive outcome. They're both still happily retired and know that, hey, no matter what happens in the stock market, we're going the right speed. We're going to make it to the destination. Point being is getting clarity around your number for how much you need to retire. It's not optional. It really is essential for being able to retire and put in your 2-week notice without being stressed or losing sleep about it. Okay, I hope that video was helpful. And if you're the kind of person who values getting ongoing help around retirement and you don't want to dive into the weeds of portfolio construction or ongoing changes to tax law, my firm, Farnam Financial, helps clients who've saved at least $1 million towards retirement and or who are either nearing or in retirement. So if you're interested in learning about how we can help you in particular, please visit our website at farnamfinancial.com. Thanks.